She's crazy like a fool. What about Lucas? She's crazy like a fool. What about Zack? Lucas and Zack. Podcast. Lucas and Zack. Podcast. Yeah.
That went even better than I thought it was going to be honest. Welcome in, folks. It's the final episode of Lucas and Zack
realized
movies.
How much prep it takes to get these songs ready, which is approximately 10 seconds before the show starts.
Yeah, audience, in case you had known, Zack did not know that was a real song. He thought that was a made-up thing of the movie, and not actually an actual track from the 70s. Welcome into the final episode of Lucas and Zack Movies Month. We are talking the movie that is basically the foundation of our friendship, which is, of course, Paddington 2. The all-time highest-rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes. That will probably never be beat, if we're being honest, because there's no way another movie gets this rating that high, or is as perfect as Paddington 2.
Yeah, nothing as accessible to everyone, to mainstream audiences and critics, because everyone just wants to experience true joy sometimes. So it's hard to hate it. You feel like an asshole if you get this a negative review. I also just want to say I like to think that the basis of our relationship is not Paddington 2, but kindness and empathy. But you do you.
I mean, we can, Paddington 2 taught us kindness and empathy, so I think that either way it worked.
True. Yeah, I mean, I was literally an asshole until 2018. I was the worst person. I watched Paddington 2, and now I'm a kind giver. I give to charity. I help people, all because of Paddington 2. None of that's true. I'm still an asshole. But
I'm still
think
an asshole.
about being a better person.
I just pretend to be a nice person when I talk about Paddington 2. The rest of the time, I trip old people and kick babies.
I think with Paddington 2, as well as Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I'm a good person for like a week after watching it, and then I regress back in my old ways.
Yeah, oh well. A week is pretty good, though. Before we jump deep into a movie we both love, let's do a little last Letterboxd movie. Zach, what's the last thing you've loved?
So I'll be talking probably about a lot of movies that I really love, because I'm watching, as I said, the previous episode, watching a lot of movies for a different podcast or YouTube show. So I watched Men in Black. This might be one of my favorites that is mostly rooted in nostalgia, but I still seen it a couple of times as an adult. Yeah, it just rules. Because I saw it when I was 8 years old, which is a perfect age for a movie about two cops fighting, aliens and having good, gags and charm and being a smart aleck. That's what an 8-year-old wants, is that kind of buddy comedy that's appropriate for children. But I think even as an adult, to appreciate the world creation they give, they take something, so immense, which is like all the universes and galaxies, and make it so bottled up in a way, because it like brings it all down to just this urban setting. They encompass so much mythology all within like their little New York couple of blocks. I think it's pretty thrilling in a lot of ways, but also I just did the first half hour especially, it's just like scene after scene of like, this is killer, this is the best. I think it's just because there's Barry Sonnenfeld, even with Adam's family, I think is so good at introducing the characters and introducing you to the world, and making you like along for the ride, that once it gets to the more plot-based stuff, more action-based, after half hour, you're so involved. So he's just really great at setup, because I think you open up with Tommy Lee Jones, doing the case, and you get the first retirement, which is good foreshadowing for the end of the movie. And that's all like, oh, I kind of understand the movie I'm in for. And then you see, Will Smith chasing down an alien and being exposed to it. And it's an exciting action scene, and you get Will Smithness, and that's really thrilling. And Will Smith gets a lot of great physical comedy moments in there, because then he does the interview scene to get in the Men in Black, which is the funniest segment of the movie. You get him trying to sit in a chair and write without a table, and such a little gag in the middle of this movie that he pulls off so well. I just think it holds up really well. I think it's really funny, and there's not enough like alien adventure movies, I feel like, anymore. I think it died with Men in Black International. Probably won't even try it again.
I mean, all the Godzillas are sort of alien adventure movies.
Yeah. It's one like sci-fi movies that are for like tweens.
What's the closest example of this? Paul? That
It's rated R.
is it
Rated
really?
R for pirates. Yeah,
Is
it's
it
like
really?
Seth Rogen doing
Wow.
raunchy jokes. Have you not seen Paul? It's like Seth
It's
Rogen as an alien. It's about
can I be?
smoking
No,
pot and
I have seen it. It's really boring, so that's probably the reason I don't remember a lot of details of it. Yeah, I've never seen Men in Black, which is a really weird thing to not have seen. But I will second your statement and say that Adam's Family is wonderful, and Adam's Family Values even better. Those movies,
yeah, Barry Sonnenfeld, pretty good director through the 90s at least. It's
and
actually like all three of
and
the first Men in Blacks.
a cinematographer on the first movie we ever covered.
Oh yeah, for big.
That's correct. Yeah, he's the big cinematographer.
I mean, the cinematography is so different than what you see in his other movies. He doesn't have those kind of close-up tracking shots. I think he does a lot of Adam's Family and Men in Black. That is kind of a notable. When we do our porn series as well, he will be notably used as well.
Is am I just unaware of an entire part of Barry Sonnenfeld's career?
He was like a porn director, a porn cinematographer at the beginning of his career.
Was he really? Wow.
Yeah. I'm
They
going to
must
double
have
check what he did, but
they must have been way more into like the art of the camera back then, because because I'm pretty sure the cinematographer now is like a button that starts three cameras and stops them. Um, yeah,
he was
that's
a
crazy.
cinematographer for the Coen brothers. What Coen brothers were you saying?
Like this is welcome to We Google Stuff with Lucas and Zach.
This has became a kind of consistent segment,
It really
unfortunately.
has, but usually it's me googling stuff and not you.
It's very limited as its description of his porn jobs on Wikipedia. It just says he
Okay.
began working on pornographic films and say, well, he did. That means he could have been in them. You might be able to see Barry Sonnenfeld's schlong and something. But I guess he was a cinematographer for like a lot of the 80s, early 90s. Cohen's, Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing. When
Ooh.
Harry Met Sally, Misery. Like he really solid cinematography career.
So he like legitimately
Interesting guy.
earned his chance as a director by doing the cinematography for like
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff in there. Like he was like,
Those are
"Here's my resume."
classic movies.
That's a lot of good stuff. That's not even like he has one thing. That's
Yeah.
like he has like five or six real quality stuff. And those Cohen movies always look really good. Yeah, it's quality
When
for
Harry
that
Met
guy.
Sally looks good. Like they
Oh
capture
yeah,
this
absolutely.
save New York. That's what the things people know most about the movie without realizing it is how City of New York is shot in that film.
Yeah. I wonder if Sonnenfeld really likes New York, and he has an eye for it. My last movie is since we did our review of Godzilla vs Kong, I've gotten sort of interested in King Kong movies. So I went back and I was going to watch them all, and I rewatched the original 1933 King Kong, which is interesting. It has some really great animatronics. The model's really cool. All the stuff with Kong and the animals is really interesting. Kind of lacks the emotional connection you like in later versions of this, where you kind of understand on an emotional level why Kong is doing this stuff, which is kind of the interesting thing about Kong versus the other creatures is because you have an ape as your big monster. There is he's more human like than most other monsters, and thus you can have some like more emotional moments and kind of understand what is behind those eyes. It has the problems of 1930s movies. The people on the island are like a racist stereotype. It's not great, but also like it's one of these things that I struggle when you watch old movies is like you have to acknowledge that it's 1933. I don't think they necessarily did it. It's always interesting because like you get stuck in this position where you're forced to make a judgment about whether this choice by the filmmaker was malicious or not. I don't think it was malicious. It just feels ignorant because it's 1933 and no one was holding them to a standard where they had to not do this. There's also they have a brontosaurus eat somebody. I don't know if you guys know this. A brontosaurus is a herbivore that they don't eat people. So your movie is kind of inaccurate dinosaurs wise, which is obviously a massive flaw. But good movie, enjoyable. Better than the two recent Kongs we've gotten. But yeah, it's always interesting trying to figure out like how much you want to criticize a movie for being super dated because of its time.
I haven't seen it. I feel like I'll probably be into it just because I like the older, atmosphere, and I appreciate how the effects were done.
Oh, I
Um,
think you will from that perspective.
early in
It's really
time
cool.
that yeah. Said we talked about this off camera before, but my first experience with King Kong and a lot of my knowledge is just based on the ride at Universal. Um, it's about Jaws for a long time. So I feel like maybe I should experience what the actual movie is like. Um, and I can almost guarantee you I'll like it better than any other King Kong movie I've seen. But who knows?
How many King Kong movies have you seen?
Um, the recent ones and the Peter Jackson one. I like the Peter Jackson one quite a
I
bit,
do
but
too. It's too long.
yeah,
Was the big problem.
yeah.
It is really funny though if you go back and the original version is like an hour and 40 minutes, and then the Peter Jackson version is like 3.5 hours. And
He
there's
doesn't know
not
how to make
really
short
that
movies.
it's not really that much difference in terms of the actual plot that's being laid out. Peter Jackson just was just like, I am now going to do. I mean, most of it is just like the action scenes are so much longer. Which, to be fair, the action scenes in the Peter Jackson King Kong are awesome, especially the scene where he fights the two
Mhm.
like T Rexes. That's pretty awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is King Kong.
We just need to stop bringing King Kong to Earth and just let him fight dinosaurs. I think that's
Well,
good
he's on
enough.
Skull Island. That's where he fights
I feel like
them.
Skull Island is a better version of what King Kong should be. That's the best part of the new one is maybe they're Hollow Earth slash Skull Island, but when you bring
Yeah.
them into cities, into waters, into any kind of industrial looking setting, the contrast is just unenjoyable and
Well, because you
unexciting.
get to basically when he's on Skull Island, you get to be like, look at a giant ape in the dinosaur period with humans. Like it gives you so many more options and things to play around. You can do crazy monsters, and then you get into a city and you're like, yep, this is Tokyo. There are buildings. There are a bunch of people. Like there's just a lot less interesting stuff you can do when you get in any kind of normal environment.
And also, you know what's cool? Dinosaurs. You know what's not cool? Fucking military. I don't need them to fight jets and tanks. I'd rather fight a brontosaurus, even if that brontosaurus is eating meat.
It is really funny though that like over time the creatures in these movies have become more and more impervious to human weapons. Like in the current, MonsterVerse, basically you can shoot a nuclear missile at one of these things and they'll be fine. And then you go back
Mhm.
to like the original and like, you're like people are shooting animals with rifles and killing them, and it's like
Yeah,
this is
it's like
interesting.
they're an animal and not made of metal.
It is almost like yes, a dinosaur is huge, but if you shot it between the eyes with a gun, it would
It's
probably still die.
it still has skin and body parts that make it able to be alive.
Yeah, Kong just got bigger. He didn't like get metal skin or something.
Just yeah, just really thick, just like this thick of skin.
He is a really thick gorilla though, so like congratulations to all thick gorillas out there.
Yeah, that little chunky monkey. He's not a monkey, but for the sake of the joke, we're gonna call him a monkey.
Do you think that Ben and Jerry should have released specialty edition chunky monkeys
Chunky
with Kong's head
monkeys.
on top?
Yeah, and they can do like something with fish food to make it for Godzilla. I think Ben Jerry's license your shit out. Okay, you're at this point you're novel anyway. Your names are always novel. You do license out to like Colbert. You need some Godzilla ice cream. Give me that shit.
It is funny how
I'll
like
eat
the
it.
only product placement they've ever done is like Colbert and
Late Night
Jimmy
House
Kimmel.
and
Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Fallon.
It's just funny. Um, yeah, that's King Kong. Let's talk about Paddington 2, the greatest movie of all time, maybe. Zach Ford, why don't you give us the plot summary of Paddington 2?
So there's this bear. It's real cute. He wears a red hat. He wears a blue coat, and he has brown fur. You have a little bit of a flashback to him living his life with his aunt and uncle, kind of adoptive parents. Um, back in why am I forgetting what country? I wanted to say Panama, but that is not correct. It's like Borneo,
Peru, darkest
Peru. Oh, thank you.
Peru.
Peru. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yes. Darkest Peru. Um, so in Peru, and they express how much you wanted to see England, and then we fast forward to where Paddington now lives in England with the Browns. Lovely family, great family. I might get rid of my family and just keep looking for new wives and children until they're like the Browns. I think I'm the one these like it, so I think Sarah should just find a Mr. Brown, leaving me in the dust. It's what Theo deserves. So the Paddington is living with the Browns. They get an update on where their life is. Um, Paddington, lovable guy, also just like a real fucking klutz. And everybody around the town learns to love him for his, his kindness and his just sincerity and how he treats everyone, and they kind of learn around him. But also, like, he fucks up someone's haircut, and he pisses off one of the other neighbors that thinks you shouldn't have bears in the street, which makes sense. Is he being treated unfairly? Yeah, I don't know. But he gets involved and, or not really framed, but incidentally framed for the theft of a pop-up book that he wanted to buy for his aunt so she could see London. And he goes to prison. And it turns out Paddington 2 all along, the best way to make a sequel to Paddington is make it a prison break movie. This may be, I wanted to do Prison Month. We should have put this into that. And he teaches the prisoners what it means to, have friendship and kindness and marmalade. And hijinks ensue. And Hugh Grant's in it, and I didn't mention his name at all, but I'm sure we'll talk about him a lot. There's trains. I don't know. It's a great movie. There's pink suits. Brendan Gleeson's name is Knuckles, and he says his name a few times and gets scared by a bear stare, and it's all great.
It is really. Where to begin? There's so many places. Let's start at the beginning of the story. I think that one thing that's so impressive about Paddington 2 is the visual storytelling that gets called back to. So the first sequence we see Paddington in the present day, he's leaving his house. He's bringing a sandwich to somebody whose bike he rides on. He's helping a guy not get locked out of his house by leaving his keys inside. He's bringing people together. He's helping someone study for his test. He's like doing all this really wonderful stuff throughout the entire film. And so that when he has to go to prison later, they come back to that moment and watch how everyone's life is just slightly worse off without Paddington in it. It's just wonderful storytelling. Like, Paul King is a legitimate genius.
Yeah, we'll talk about Paul King a lot and why the direction of this film is what elevates above the actual or the other kids movies of this similar light. But I do want to say you connected to my main takeaway on this watch, which has to do with us just talking about It's a Wonderful Life. But I think there's so much connectivity to It's a Wonderful Life. Maybe that's why we're drawn to those movies. I think especially thematically. But you said we get to witness what life is like without Paddington. Paddington starts to doubt his own, value in the community. He gets arrested. The one guy really doesn't want him. He messes up the haircut. He feels like a fuck up. He's literally in prison. He really misses home, or misses Peru. But he's really starting to lose his sense of place in that community. Just like Bailey starts to feel like he never lost his identity and place in that town. But by the end and by that scene, people realize what life was like without him. Paddington realizes the value they have, and everyone's able to come in the end come back to do something great for their hero. The ending of Paddington 2 of them all coming together to buy a plane ticket for his aunt to come from Peru, which is like one of the loveliest scenes ever. It has so much parallel structure to everyone coming back and giving money at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, and seeing all your characters together. I think just that community building, especially, that's what you were kind of heading at, is that you see how he interacts with everyone in this town. You get to know each little character he sees, and understand enough about the character, even though they have 1 minute screen time, which is such a thing that I said It's a Wonderful Life, I think, spawned into many movies and many shows about small towns. So Paddington, I think, is probably the most successful to kind of use that community building off of that.
Absolutely. And 2 points. One, another connection between the two films is I cry at the end of both of them. I was weeping at the end of Lucy. It's one of the most just purely beautiful moments of kindness being paid off. And he's so happy. He's happy that he got out, and then he's so sad because he didn't get his aunt a birthday present, which in the scheme of things is not a huge deal, but he is such a purely wonderful person that the idea of his aunt not thinking he cared about her birthday is so painful to him. And then just getting to open the door, and everyone had all done this for him, while he was sick. And it's such a beautiful moment. And it's like, it's almost like restores your faith in humanity. You're like, this is what we should be like as people, because this is just pure wonder and pure care for another human being at absolutely no these people don't get anything out of bringing Aunt Lucy there beyond watching Paddington be happy, and that's just like
No.
a purely joyful moment that is it's unbelievably to watch.
Yeah, the circle of giving and kindness, and something just to express how effective that ending is I watch movies and fragments very often because that's just what my life gives me sometimes. So I had to stop Paddington with 10 minutes left in the movie, and I watched it hours later, the last 10 minutes. So I basically watched the final scene isolated from the rest of the movie, and still like sparked two tears. Just like I feel like I can watch only that scene in a year from now. And I think you even though the rest of the story definitely adds to it, but I think they were able to generate such a microcosm of a story just in that scene. You can understand the emotions without anything else, which I think is what Paul King is super effective. I think he in every scene kind of could be a story of its own, or a little short film of its own. He makes every scene matter in a way that's effective, and every scene has a reward in a way.
Yeah, he's also just such a good show don't tell storyteller. He doesn't tell us that everybody loves Paddington and he's an integral part of the community. He shows us as in this like 2 minute sequence or like 90-second sequence at the beginning of the film that shows you how important it is for him.
The montage.
Even the way Paddington talks about other characters that allows you to get caught up on where the Browns are from the first film to the second film is just filled with such love and such care for them. Like, the kids are kind of doing goofy stuff and like he could be more judgmental, but that's just not who Paddington is. Like there's this joy, there's this happiness and this joy to like, oh, he's has to be called J Dog, and now he never talks about steam trains. But it's like it's almost like, oh, I wish he didn't think he had to do that. But like there's just such happiness, and then even the Mr. Brown stuff where he's being like having like a weird midlife crisis, and it's simultaneously like such an expression of how much Paddington cares about these people, and also just a really funny reintroduction to all these characters. They're just doing such goofy stuff, but also like incredibly charming goofy stuff.
Yeah, every goofy thing they introduce with the characters has a payoff and ending. They have their little mini arcs. The son who too cool for trains, he needs to act out. At the end, starts to embrace trains, and it plays into the plot very purposefully.
Yeah.
The mom wants to swim the channel, and you see her practicing it, and she gets to overcome that by the end. They just say in the end, but everyone has their full arc that they're able to fulfill that for having Paddington in their lives. I want to say Paddington's most noble quality probably is he just is an emblem of acceptance. Like everyone he comes to, he accepts who they are. He believes there's positive sides. He has the best intentions and can be the best they can. That's why putting him in prison is such a good idea. And you're not led to believe that these are like truly good guys. They're all like did commit their crimes, and you don't know what they did. Like Knuckles probably murdered someone, right?
There's definitely an insinuation that he is
like
good with knives for a reason.
Like they're definitely not great people, but Paddington still treats them with as much kindness as he would treat anybody else without any judgment, as you have said, which is remarkable. And I think that's what sets him apart from Peter Bailey in a way. Peter Bailey still, judges Potter or Peter Bailey. Fucking George Bailey, thank you. George Bailey.
Peter Bailey is a character though. If it makes you feel better.
Okay. George Bailey.
His dad.
Thank you. George Bailey, still we have an enemy to fear of, which is Potter, and there's other people that he definitely thinks down on and are not positive people. Paddington, I think even Hugh Grant's character, Paddington, probably like has some level of forgiveness for and some understanding. Just out of work acting. And the movie does too. It gives him a little bit of a reward at the end with him being able to like find his true calling performing stage plays in the end. So I think this movie just understands that everyone has positive qualities that can come to light that they exhibit through how Paddington treats everyone.
Yeah,
if only we could be like that.
Yeah. Even the villain is hysterical. Everything he does in this film is so funny. The idea of taking Hugh Grant, who is an actor that we have like a long history with, casting this movie as an out-of-work actor who's struggling and is doing dog food commercials, and not only doing dog food commercials, sitting like a person in a chair just in a giant dog costume, eating dog food with like a fork is just hysterical. And then the fact that he gets into so many different costumes and he's always
Mhm.
doing different voices at all times, and just even like the weird like things of his character, the fact that when he's in the stand about to send Paddington, like he gets asked to, will you say the truth and the whole truth and the truth so help you God, and he has this whole like ridiculous monologue about how it's totally
He's
over the
just an
top.
extreme narcissist that wants money. Like he's really not that villainous. He trained Paddington, which is the worst thing. He let him go to prison. But otherwise, he's just a psycho that's doing weird stunts to get treasure. Um, I will say my favorite like addition to his characterization, a line that dropped I think I just missed every other time watching it is when the two kids are trying to talk to his like agent.
Mhm.
Um, to con him into not being in the house so they can uncover some stuff. But when she's like, why they're like, why does he like not work anymore? And she's like, oh, he just like refuses to act with anybody. Like it wasn't like they didn't want him. He just like everyone fucked with his acting. He was too good for everyone else, so he would only perform by himself.
Yeah, he's going to
Like
dilute his talent.
one man shows only, or he plays every character. They dilute his talent, yes. So a pretty solid reason for why you can't have a career because you refuse to have anyone perform a scene with you. It's a great bit.
I
It's
love the
like
bit.
extreme narcissism.
I love the bit about the hand drawing of the guy that got away from Paddington, and the fact that he keeps saying things about how attractive the guy is. Like he's in
Oh,
jail and
the like cop at the church.
he showed well not even that, it's the in the sketch of
Yeah.
the guy the like the hobo that gets away when and then Paddington gets
Oh
framed.
yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
in court testifying against Paddington, and the picture, like this black and white charcoal drawing, looks terrible. And he's like, "Oh, he's really handsome. He's gonna look
Uh,
to him." And then even later, he's talking about his like beautiful blue eyes, and Mrs. Brown has to go, "The pictures, there's no color in the picture."
because they play into this a lot too, because that's what the cop at the church is like the most beautiful nun I've ever seen. So you're led to believe that Hugh Grant might be just really attractive to everyone around him, in every sketch. But I do love the bit that the sketches are like so perfect and intricate based on just details that they told this girl. She has this immaculate um, skill of prison or crime sketches.
Yeah, it's like literally, it's every picture's just Hugh Grant with
No
a beard,
detail.
Hugh Grant with a nun's costume, Hugh Grant with a helmet.
That's
Oh,
a
it's so
great
good.
visual use too. Is when they what's her name? Sally Hawkins' character, Mrs. Brown, we're gonna call
Yeah,
her. When she comes to the awareness of that it is Hugh Grant's character all along, they do a quick flash of every illustration, like goes real fast to
such a
connect
good
to his
moment.
face, and it's a really good image.
Well, it's such a great moment because you, as the audience, know that it's him, and
Mhm.
you're, as the audience, are sitting here going, "Come on, look at these pictures! It's so clearly him! Come on, get to it!" And then that moment is such a perfect payoff of this feeling you've had for 20 minutes of being like, "How on earth have you not figured this out? It's so clearly him. It looks exactly like him in every picture." But then the way they do it is just, it's brilliant. It's wonderful.
Yeah, because it could be so obvious, and so it's like, oh, of course you know this, but because they do it in such a creative fashion, her light bulb moment is visualized so creatively, it makes the audience still engaged, where we could have just said like, let's move on.
But they're also just so self-aware about the fact that it is obvious. Like they never for a second try to pretend that
Yeah,
it's not him. Like they never try to trick you. They're clearly, they're like, look, it's
yeah.
obviously him. How are people not getting this? But it's also sort of a joke because everyone is just kind of like, it's the classic, like everyone's oblivious to the person in their midst. Why would they think it's him? There's no reason to think it's him, so you just kind of miss him.
And the only person that would have thought it was him is the only person that for some reason has disdain for actors. Because that's another thing is they treat him in such a high regard for the most part. The judge says like the noble profession of actor at the end. How dare you shame the noble profession? But Julie Walters as Mrs. Bird is the only one that just like hates actors and just that's like her whole bit, the whole movie is of course it's him. All actors are liars.
This movie
So
is
so
just
the fact that it's so
good.
funny.
It's a great
But
bit.
that's the reason why, in a way, they say he can get away with it because they treat him like he's a king. Like, how can an actor ever do such a horrible thing?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing, and like she hates him because he can never remember her name until the end of the film. It's just a great bit. Um, this movie is full of like all the best British actors, like the best character actors. It's so much fun. Did they just get the best people to be in this? Hugh Bonneville and Sally Hawkins as the parents are just wonderful. Like the fact that
Yeah,
Sally Hawkins gets like Oscar nominated and then goes back to playing the mom in a Paddington movie is just a
it's
joy.
still great because it can just be like a pass over performance, but she has like the right level of quirk and like positivity that can match
Oh
with
yeah.
Paddington. She's almost the closest as a human to Paddington of any of the human characters, and that comparison works really well.
And
But
then Hugh Bonneville is hysterical in both these films, the first one and this one. I love the attempt in both films to be like, there used to be a cooler version of this very dorky, like very proper
accountant,
British gentleman. And last one, it's like he drove up to the hospital. I will rewatch the scene for the first one. In the first one, the flashback scene is Mrs. Bird telling the kids that her dad used to be cool. Their dad used to be cool. And the flashback is him driving up to the hospital with Sally Hawkins when she's pregnant on a motorcycle, and like this will never change. He's got a crazy mustache and everything. And then they walk out the door after having the kid, and he's got like a brown sedan, and he's yelling at people to stay away from them because the baby can't handle pollen. It's just a great moment. And in this one, the fact that the cool version of Hugh Bonneville was set to the song "Daddy Cool," and it's him
he
throwing
throws a
balls at
baseball.
coconuts.
um, this is a kind of off topic, but the story reminds me of one
Good.
of my favorite stories from a friend. His dad is like very, suburban Ohio. Just looks like such a dad in a lot of ways, but supposedly he has had his daddy cool moment in the 70s where he was
Mhm.
just like riding motorcycles and wearing leather jackets. I had long hair, and supposedly he like picked up why am I like Carol Shelley, the Big Bird actor, on the side of the road who was hitchhiking and smoked pot with Big Bird, and that's his daddy cool moment. And that's all I ever think of. Like, Mr. Brown definitely did pot with some puppeteer. Like, I just know he did.
I mean, I think he
Did
was
pot.
clearly he
I'm a
was
daddy cool myself.
he was clearly blazing it up back when he had that great mustache and the hair and stuff. I mean,
Oh,
it's
he
so
could
good.
only throw the baseball that accurately because he did a shitload of coke before that throw.
But it's also just such a great look. Like the fact that they are so detailed and focused on making the look funny for like a 20-second bit in your movie is the flashback to him, and he's got the mustache and he's got the headband, and it's like the whole costume just works, and
It
you just
still
laugh
looks
instantly.
60 years old.
But that's what makes it funny because it was so clear
Yeah.
that it's so clear that Hugh Bonneville was never cool. So they put him in costumes to try to make him look cool, but he
I
still
don't
just
know
looks
what you're
like
talking about. What did you see? I saw him hit every single one of those pins with that ball. That
it was
guy
pretty impressive. I'm not gonna
is
lie.
fucking cool.
Oh man. And then we talked about Hugh Grant. Brendan Gleeson plays Knuckles. Knuckles
Love
with a
him.
capital N.
My favorite thing. I need Paddington, or I need Brendan Gleeson to pop up in every. I do need Paddington to
He's
pop up
his
in every movie as well. But
Brendan
Brendan
Gleeson is
Gleeson, when he wants
hysterical.
to have fun, everyone in this movie gets the tone so perfectly. But I think the contrast of Brendan Gleeson, what you're used to him, that you can see him, as this rough Irish guy in a crime movie. I mean, he did all the like Calvary and the Guard, and then Bruges. All what are those brothers' names? Why am I blinking on them?
Oh, McDonough.
Yeah, he does all the McDonough movies. So you kind of see him as this rough, Irish rogue, which is he's playing that character. You take the character from in Bruges in a way, except that he's you know, a patron of the arts in Bruges. But you take that character and you put him in prison, and this is who you get. You can throw him right into the Paddington movie. So I think that's why it's lovely is they didn't take an actor to play something completely contrasting what they usually are. They're playing their normal role, but just putting Paddington next to him, and it's lovely. And he gets some great jokes as well. Just the name Knuckles, is wonderful, and just the slow roll to his acceptance for Paddington. Like he's what everyone fears in this prison. They're like, this bear is going to get his ass kicked. So he's going to go up and critique the cooking of Brendan Gleeson. But Paddington's just general unassuming going up to him and just being sincere with what he wants to say and sincere with his interactions. Like pretty quickly breaks down Brendan Gleeson. It's really him eating the marmalade and learning how delicious it is and what they could be making. But it's still that the relationship is super believable even in like a 5 second adjustment. It shouldn't come off as sincere as it does. But Brendan Gleeson can really switch that gruffness and that warmness very, very quickly that I think is, magical.
I mean, I think literally every second he's on screen is perfect. Like the first time he
Yeah,
walks in, he's this huge, towering guy. Paddington walks up to him. He
he
tries
makes
to
him
talk
look
about the
big.
series. Make him huge. It's such a good. It's a
Yeah.
really good like perspective, like the classic like Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings thing. And then he accidentally squirts ketchup on his thing, and then he tries to rub it off, and then he squirts mustard on because he thinks that's going to get enough, and then he whacks him in the head with a baguette. And then there's just a great moment when he starts talking and he cracks the rolling pin in half, and he goes, "No one questions my food. No one sprays, and no one whacks me in the head with a baguette." And then
Yeah, yeah. Just
then,
pronunciation of baguette is perfect.
that's great. Then he grabs Paddington and yells at him, and the marmalade sandwich lands in his mouth. And he eats and he goes, "What was that?" And Paddington goes, "Marmalade." And he goes, "Marmalade." And then there's the way he says marmalade the first time
Yeah.
is hysterical. And then he's like, "All right, fine." And then he tells the entire group, "This bear is under my protection."
And using him for the hard stare moment, they have to have a hard stare.
Oh,
It's a
it's so good.
Paddington thing, and using it in the middle of them learning how to cook and him not being any help in the kitchen, and that being what can fully make that connection, make him be part of their partnership, their cooking partnership. Of Paddington coming off as the tough one after talking about Brendan Gleeson's like good with knives and like definitely murdered at least 10 people. He might have been a
Oh yeah.
mob enforcer, and for him to be broken down by just being stared at by a bear, one is super funny, but two, once again, works into the themes of the movie because it's just that sincerity of your interactions and what you want, and the like, because in the bear stare, it's supposed to be like intense and scary. It's also just like I expect of you. It's like a stern discipline. It's like saying I'm disappointed in you.
It's so good.
And so yeah, it's wonderful. But Brendan
Knuckles'
Gleeson, legit.
response.
I don't feel like we talk about this enough, but Brendan Gleeson is legit one of my favorite actors. Like if I had to make top 10 actors, he could be one of my top 10 of all time. So
Wow.
putting him into a Paddington movie is just ideal. That's honestly why I often say Brendan Gleeson is my favorite performance over Hugh Grant in this, which is often seen as a wrong take, but I think a lot of it is just based to my own personal affection for Brendan Gleeson as an actor. I'm just bound to love his performance more.
I mean, I'll agree with you. Brendan Gleeson is my favorite performance in this film.
Okay.
I don't know if I love Gleeson as much as you, but he's certainly in the class of actors where I will never be unhappy to see him show up in a film, even if it's for like he randomly walks in as the police officer or something. Like he's just one of those people
Yeah.
that you'll always enjoy. The hard stare scene is just amazing because Paddington he calls Aunt Lucy, he insults Aunt Lucy, and then Paddington gives him the hard stare, and his response to it, he's like, "What's going on? Why is it so hot in here? Did somebody leave the oven?" Like his the progressions to this is just so good. And then but even just like the response to him and Paddington, comes and he's like, "No singing, no humming, no," because he's walking around doing one juicy orange, and he puts on the apron and he takes the hat and then he blows it up with his nose, which is a good moment.
He's just an actor that's always game for whatever he is in for. He just gets the tone of what the director wants pretty well. That's why he fits so perfectly in the Harry Potter universe. I think him as Meta
Oh, he's
Moody is
awesome.
perfection. And that's why he does so well with McDonald, which is, a more, acid take on a kind of gangster movie.
He's so funny in the
Both
guard.
McDonald's. Yeah, in the guard as well. He really gets that kind of dark humor. He can just switch it to whatever is needed of him. Anytime. That's why he's great. He fits in art films, he fits in genre films, crime films, he fits in family film perfectly.
He's got the great look. He's got a great voice. He kind of just has everything you wanted of a character actor. You're just like, yeah, that guy he just has something about him. You just enjoy him in every scene. Um, there's so many good moments in this kitchen scene. The knife introduction, we've talked about this before, where he's like, Paddington's like, Aunt Lucy always said, be really careful with the knives. And he's just really good at it. And he's like, how do you know? And he goes, you don't want to know. And then they make it, and then they serve it, and he's really nervous they won't like it, and he's in the kitchen, and there's a really funny moment that I'm pretty sure is left in. It was an error that they left in. Is when he's cleaning the pans and he's jamming them back into the holder, and he jams one of them too hard and it falls out. While he's saying, "Oh, my dad always told me I'd be nothing." I think that was probably a mistake. Like, I don't think it's meant to bounce back out and smack him on the leg, but it's just really, really unintentionally funny. Um, just everything about that scene where he's so scared that they won't like his marmalade sandwiches. It's just like watching this guy go from being like breaking a rolling pin in half to being concerned they won't like the marmalade sandwiches. It's just so good.
Marmalade's almost like the drug that Paddington is passing around to get prison to accept him, because it goes to one person and he builds a relationship with Gleason, but then it's a really quick way to get the whole prison to accept him. Is they all eat, his marmalade drug at the same point, and it all breaks them down and kind of brings them back to their childhood nostalgia, the recipes they grew up with, all the sweet things that their grandparents and parents have made for them. It's a super sweet moment, and once again, the magic of this movie, the understanding that everybody has had full lives and has positive lights and has memories and has things they like and enjoy and vulnerabilities, that these are all hard-worn prisoners and criminals, but they all have had memories of these lovely things they ate as kids, and they can make them have soft moments. I mean, it's a stylized kids movie, but it still connects to the real life in a way that makes me feel warm, that make me remember that I should not give people a hard time because they act like an asshole, that they still have the same soft spots that I also have.
Yeah, it's such a good scene because like the introduction of like, well, Paddington and Knuckles made marmalade for everyone, and then you get the other prisoners like, I can make this and I can make that, and then you just watch over time the prison turns into it, and they've got flowers growing in boxes along the railings, and all the table they've taken out the long tables and they put in little like tea parlor tables, and they're serving different sweets, and he's it's just like a wonderful statement about what the presence of Paddington can do. And this all goes, one of the things that they do so well early on to make the prison with Paddington seem different is it's a jokey moment, but when he accidentally throws the red sock into the washing machines and turns all the gray and white prison uniforms into pink and gray uniforms, it's such a, I don't know whose idea that was, but it's so brilliant because from then on, it adds this lightheartedness to prison. Like initially, prison seems really dark because it's like dark and it's raining and everyone's wearing it and everyone looks unhappy. But the fact that he then dyes them all pink is not only a reason for the other prisoners to be annoyed at him, but also just makes them all look hysterical. They cast the other prisoners so well; they just have like such a unique look. Like you've seen them in other stuff. Noah Taylor's one of the guys. He always plays like kind of a bad guy. They've got like really great at like they look like gruff, hardened criminals, but then they happen to be wearing pink uniforms and eating marmalade sandwiches. It just like the combination is just great.
The prisoners also are a collection of Lucas and Zack podcast favorites, because we have, I'm going to mess up with some of the names, but we have from Eurovision. I lost his name. Jamie Dimitru, who plays the like coordinator for the performances in Eurovision.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, he has a great moment. And he has a great line where he says, "Hey, I didn't make anything great, but like this guy makes a great apple cobbler or something." And the guy he talks to is who I say is one of the best performances in Alex Riedel. That I am blanking on his name as well.
Oh, is that him?
I thought it was him. I remember us saying he was in Paddington too, and I couldn't remember who it was. And I cannot find him on the IMDb right now. So am I lying? Probably. But
Maybe.
for my memory of our past conversation, that's what we
You're talking about decided. The guy in jail, right?
Yes. But I can't find him on the Paddington 2 IMDb right now. But I can't find the guy who played that character. He's the one that doesn't like speak. He just like grumbles. This is. Should I sing another song? Why you look this up?
We got it.
Crazy.
No, it's right. Like you're right. It is him. It's Robbie
okay,
G.
Yeah.
Robbie G plays Simeon in Alex Weedle, and he also plays.
Yes.
Let me see if I can find the name. Yeah. Let me just go back. Yeah, he plays Mr. Barnes. Mr. Barnes. in Paddington 2. Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Barnes is not the character I think he was, so he's a different character. I cannot pin it now. Either way, it's filled of these small actors that just appear in all these movies we love. Maybe there's something about their taste. Let's talk about Paul King's visual use throughout the film. The two best scenes of all of 2018 for me, I think these were what I was really fighting for is the picture book scene and the prison jungle. It's both of the times that Paul King uses magical realism and to us gain a glimpse into what Paddington is feeling and imagining. That is highly effective. Yeah.
Robbie G plays Mr. Barnes, who is the truck driver for the trash truck driver, who he's studying. That's who he's. Yeah, no, I know who you're thinking of.
Okay. So the picture book, especially. So this is when he's wanting to buy a gift for Aunt Lucy, and another great British actor and Harry Potter alumnus, Jim Broadbent as the antique store owner. Shows him this picture book, and Paul King doesn't just show us the book, but it comes to life as Paddington just like appears within the pages. So it shows us London, but all in like a three-dimensional paper format, like as a picture book that he's walking through, and it's one just extremely lovely designed and incredibly imagined. But also between the use of the score and the use of just where Paddington's mind is at, of you can tell that he's just one in love with this book, but also in love with the idea of what this can bring to Aunt Lucy. That it's not just coming to life on screen, but in his head, it's coming to life. So he can feel like Aunt Lucy's really going to see what it's like. It's just a super warm moment. But the idea that Paul King uses to make the internal emotions of a Paddington is into these magical realist moments is stunning to me and just beautiful.
I love Lucy and I love Aunt Lucy in that scene where she's walking and she's like, "What a nice pigeon!
Yeah,
what a nice bus!"
Yeah.
It's very much ties into the fact that she's part of the reason that Paddington is the way he is. That her as a person. And Uncle, what's his name? I'm blank on this name. Pastuzo.
Uncle Bear.
Michael Gambon. Also Harry Potter.
Every British movie has at least 5 Harry Potter actors in it.
Well, it makes sense because Harry Potter movies are filled with long-term, classically trained British actors, and this movie also has a lot of.
That Sally Hawkins never got in a Harry Potter movie. I feel like that's always a missed opportunity. She should have been Trelawney. She would have been a better Trelawney.
Oh, disagree. Emma Thompson kills it as Trelawney.
No, she's not.
She's so good at that role.
To me, it's always Emma Thompson just being weird. I don't like. That's all.
Let's not fight about this because I don't know if Sally. I don't know if Sally Hawkins was. I don't know if Sally Hawkins was. Her career sort of doesn't get going. I think the difference between her and a lot of people that do end up in the franchise, and we'll dodge this stuff, is that the other people were more established by that point. One thing you see with the Imelda Staunton's and the Michael Gambons is they had 20 years of a career at the point.
By the way, Imelda Staunton, awesome on Paddington, so we're now in 4. She's Aunt Lucy.
Yes, correct. Yes, we've got a lot of them.
Wait, 5. We didn't even say Julie Walters. There's our 5. That's limited law of 5s.
It's true, and you've also got you've got Doctor Who people, you've got James Bond people, you've got it's all the different British franchises are all kind of coming together in this film. I love the way they use Lucy in that scene. It's totally brilliant, and because you don't have to do that scene for the movie to work. But the fact that Paul King is we're going to do these magical realism scenes, they don't need to be in the movie. You could just tell a straightforward Paddington story and it would be good. But what sets this movie apart and makes it really stand out is the fact that Paul King was I'm not only going to make a really enjoyable Paddington movie, I'm also going to be this is Paddington 2 as my Citizen Kane. He is clearly just I'm going to take shots, I'm going to take risks, and then he just nails all of them.
No, he really shows that he cares about the work he's doing, that he does have a passion for the story, that he sees a purpose in it, which it does have a great purpose of teaching empathy. Movies are not gentle like this anymore. It's almost classical in its way of earnestness and gentleness. I said a way that goes back to what Frank Capra was doing. How people have gotten so suspicious of movies that are so open with their emotions in a way, and open with his kindness. That Paul King is, I feel like, sees purpose of that, and that might maybe is one of his more touristic, thematic through lines. I hope, as he gets more opportunities outside of Paddington. So I know we were both upset that he's not directing Paddington 3, but I am interested in what he's able to bring. I do want him to bring in um, I want him to stay in the kids movie genre. I just find his direction so important for kids movies. Because I think especially the lack of gentleness in kids movies and more of the hijinks and the humor and pop culture references, I think are diluting the experiences and the lessons
Mhm.
that kids can learn. I think Paul King is very important to that genre, but I want to see him in some more original stories and other properties and get to spread his wings a little bit and see, if he fully is the real deal, because we are judging him on one franchise at this point. But just a distinct visual eye. So, studios often just want to, make kids' movies as baseline as possible because kids are going to see it anyways, and they're not high critics. So to put that much creativity and what you can do with it is um, also something that's unique for him.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing that not only for Paul King and his vision, but also for the studio to be like, yeah, we're gonna let Paul King make a legitimate auteurs kids movie, and not an auteurs kids movie in a way like a Tim Burton would do it, where it's just super weird and bizarre, and like
Dark.
he's just going dark into his brain, but like a movie where the auteurist aspect is the honest, gentle, kind of loving and beautiful like message and feel of the entire film. Even the sequences where like potentially like even the scenes where there's like tension, like the tension is really pulled back on because it's clear that Paul King does not want to make a movie that causes you anxiety or stress. Like there's a real intention to be like even the sequence where like feel that part of the reason that Hugh Grant works so well in this film is that it really pulls back from the traditional kids villain. Like there's never an attempt to make him seem super sinister or threatening or dangerous and like he might hurt somebody. He's so goofy. Like he is doing technically bad and wrong things, but he's doing them in such a goofy manner that you as an audience, even sitting with a small child, I don't think a kid is going to be like, man, I don't want to, I'm going to be scared of the scene where Hugh Grant tries to kill Paddington. Because that's just genuinely not something this movie wants to do. It's so purely what Paul King sees in the world. And like he wants to make this movie the way he wants to make it. And you're right. This is not a movie that gets made anymore. There are so few movies these days that are just genuinely about being kind and being nice to people and how that helps everyone else out. Like, I mean, especially
Yeah.
with kids movies. Kids movies are so I don't think kids really get it when they're kids, but when you get to be an adult and you rewatch these things, you're like, how are these things this mean spirited and we're supposed to like show them to children? Like all these movies are like, let's put down other people and let's trash others to put
Yeah.
ourselves up. Like the messages are terrible in some of these kids movies that they want everyone to watch, and which makes Paddington 2 stand out even more.
It's kind of the fear of the G. Like you don't want the G rating. You have to be edgier. The kids are not going to want to watch you and talk about it. When we once again still need movies for littlest of kids too. G-rated movies are important, but also I think we need to teach our kids that it's okay to watch whatever you get. You don't have to be cool. I guess I don't know. Even as adults, we need these G-rated movies. We need these movies to remind us just what it is to be nice and be calm. We don't have to have something, we don't have to have an edge to make something interesting or purposeful. That's not what makes a movie good. Um, as far as comparatives for Paul King as a director, you said how really not Tim Burton is. My comparative has always been if Wes Anderson directed kids movies. The only difference is Wes Anderson's like stunts the charisma of actors. So if you and Paul King does not. So it's really the visual style of Wes Anderson and connect that with the earnest, heart in your sleeveness of Frank Capra, and that's where you get Paul King.
Yeah, it really does feel like one like that. I think it's also just like one thing that's become sad over the last like 10, 15, 20 years is how quality directors have just and like even just like the idea of quality and inventiveness and trying to be unique, but also like doing it at a really high standard, has something that has really kind of disappeared from G and PG rated movies. I mean, there are not a lot of people who are like talented and know what they're doing who are working in genres. So often they're just like products of a studio machine put together
They're a
by
commercial product.
right. They're like there is a director for the film, and they're probably not completely untalented, but they're also like they're told what to do by 19 producers, and the movie's designed to sell toys and to do, like there's so much of an other purpose to these movies that come out that kind of stunts their ability to be just truly brilliant. And what Paddington 2 has is a director who's like, I am making a Paddington 2 movie. This is my Citizen Kane. I'm going to make this as good as possible. And I don't care if it sells toys. I don't care if it spawns a franchise. Like the entire point of this movie is just the movie. There's no focus on, oh, can we do a TV show on Netflix of spinoff of this? Oh, can we do a third movie? Oh, can we sell 45,000 million
Toys.
Paddington toys? Like there's really just like a focus on like, we just want to make a wonderful story that you finish watching and you just feel really good at the end.
And it really could be that because Paddington is a brand. This movie could
Oh,
have
yeah.
been made in the most cynical way possible. That's like, we're just going to tell the most baseline story possible way so we can sell some toys because kids are going to like whatever they're fed. We are going to put enough effort to make this sellable and get stuffed animal book combos sold at Kohl's.
Right. And like Paul King writes this movie too. So like this is like this movie is based on the character of Paddington, the children's book character.
Mhm.
But they ignore the like really lazy version of just like let's adapt a bunch of scenes from previous Paddington books. Like this is, as far as I can understand, a wholly original take on the character. Like this is not a story that we've seen in the books. Like Paul King is like, I'm going to write the Paddington is the character that I'm taking from literature, but then I'm going to write about him the way you would write about, James Bond or Jason Bourne or like any of the other characters you would pull from literature without pulling every aspect of their story with them. But also like I think clearly stays true to the foundational elements of who Paddington
Yeah.
Bear is, while at the same time not boxing himself in by trying to adapt previous stories that have been told in a format that doesn't work for adaptation to the big screen.
Yeah, it doesn't have the need to modernize it in a way. He had trust in
Oh yeah.
what made the source material work and stay true to that. Because if this was made by a big American Hollywood studio, you get the Smurfs, you get Alvin and the Chipmunks, where they update it thinking they need to put kids in specific ways rather than trying to be authentic to what made it enjoyable in the first place.
Right, because if this is made by a major studio, this movie is modernized like those. And what this movie is
if this is made in Hollywood, you get Paddington twerking to a Cardi B song. Honestly, that's
well, it's not even just that. It's not even that. If you look at the films that they're constructed, what you would see is way less of the Paddington just being wonderful and loving, and way more of the flooding the ceiling with the bathtub and like the hijinks and stuff. That's what you'd see more of, or even like the window washing sequence. You'd see more of that because that's what it would be. It would be like, okay, we're making a Paddington movie. I don't care if you do anything with the character, just make him play like some popular songs, have some cameos of people. Oh, you're gonna have his friend, and his friend will be voiced by somebody who's famous right now, and then just have a bunch of hijink and jokes and slapstick scenes.
A lot of the reason I think Hollywood studios get so cynical in its approach is also what they think the parents are going to want is really unfair. That they think parents need jokes that cater to their knowledge, like little inside jokes, like haha, that's for adults and my kids don't understand it, which is such a misreading of what people want. Because I think what true parents would want is also good stories. I mean, we could still read a children's book that we read as kids and find it lovely and find meaning from it. Just because we are adults doesn't mean we need something different than what the kids need. We can still fall for a story that is sincere and true and lovely.
This is actually a really good point, which is that in our society, we do a lot of boxing up different pieces of content, whether they be books or comics or songs or movies or TV shows, into boxes by age. And the idea is that when you're under 6, you're supposed to do these stuff. And when you're 6 to 10, you're supposed to do these. And when you're 11 to 15, you're supposed to do these. And when you're 16 to 20, you're supposed to we box ourselves up into these boxes. And it's really destructive for our understanding of the greater world and our ability to just enjoy stuff. Like, in your mid-20s, you should be able to go back and read a picture book and be like, yeah, it's not high literature, it's not Dickens, but it's a great
Yeah.
picture book, and I should be able to enjoy that the same way I enjoy a kids movie like Paddington 2 or There Will Be Blood, or I should be able to enjoy a jokey TV show the same way I should be able to enjoy something serious. Like the ability to understand things of different that are designed for different age groups and with different tones and tastes is really important and like something we've lost. And the fact that this movie is unabashedly playing to a young audience, but also is like, I trust that adults are going to be able to sit down and understand the deeper nuances of this film. And I'm going to put those nuances in there. The kids are just going to think, oh, it's like You Be Nice and Paddington has fun. And an adult might have like a real, life changing experience watching this film because we're
Yeah.
able to understand like the true, like deeper complexities. But the fact that he makes a movie in a way that is asking you as an adult to sit down and watch this movie on the kid's level and saying, if you choose to enjoy something like a kid, you will get a greater meaning from it because you've aged, rather than trying to be like, hey, I'll throw in like 5 jokes where you get like some random cameo of a celebrity that you know, but your kids don't. Like the fact that it's just like, I'm gonna just make this movie and I'm gonna trust that people, small children to adults, are gonna be able to sit down and enjoy this
Yeah.
without having to cater individual components of it to them.
I made this very evident in our, Mrs. Rogers conversation as well, but I'm a firm believer in that sometimes the most important philosophy for people of all ages to really live their life by can sometimes just be the simplest form. Sometimes the simplest version that comes off in kids' entertainment is still just as moving and powerful for us. That is in all my favorite characters, in Paddington and Winnie the Pooh and Mr. Rogers. They all have something timeless, and ever endearing to how we can be the best versions of ourselves that even as adults we tend to forget. So even being reminded in the most simplest to understand way can just be the kick that you need to at least for a week try to improve yourself and mind it is what to be pure. It's back to the pureness of a kid before you get cynical and torn down but what life has to offer you. How could you return to that purest form that way the Pooh represents, that Mr. Rogers represents, and Paddington himself. So that's why if adults give themselves to this movie, I really feel that they can be moved and have a somewhat of a life changing experience. I'm just saying, like, yeah, this is obvious, but also I'm not following it. I don't live my life this way, and seeing why it is
Mm.
important, and that is possible. That if we are just aware of our actions, and we could make slight changes to create a world that somehow can approximate to what Paddington's world is.
Well, this movie very much falls into a genre of film that you and me both enjoy, which is it's similar to It's a Wonderful Life. It's similar to Manchester by the Sea we just did, which is like these movies ask you to embrace and engage with the emotion, like with human emotion and like the roller coaster, and think about like how life is supposed to be lived, and what changes us, and how an event can touch one person different than another, and how that you can get caught in a trap of thinking of looking at situations one way without acknowledging like the positives. You get too stuck in the negatives. There's so many films like this that have the ability to touch people and make them think deeply about their own emotions or their interactions or like feelings they've held against people, or just thoughts that they've kept in their mind, without taking a step back and acknowledging maybe that's not helpful for me, maybe that's not helping me be the person I want to be. And in some ways Paddington is just like a film about, sure, you can hold all the grudges against people if you want. Those characters exist. The judge character exists for a reason. Like he clearly holds all these grudges. Peter Capaldi's character, the neighborhood watch guy, just seems mad at everyone all the time. But the movie is constantly showing you that if you're just willing to engage with the happiness that Paddington brings into your life, that it can change you, and suddenly you go from a guy sitting in a darkened room to a guy waking up next to the woman that was out your window. That there's all these really small like changes that you can fulfill if you just are willing to engage with the film. That's what the characters do, and that's I think what an audience member can do as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking as a pop culture society, the late aughts and early 2010s got so captured and engaged with the anti-hero, especially through television with Breaking Bad and Mad Men. That was like the stories that people want to say, and we saw what our society has led to in the 2010s. I think sometimes you need that full 180 flip. So having putting what we put on the artistic pedestal, I think it is time for us to maybe revert a little bit away from the anti-hero heroes, and let's really raise the movies that are just like the purest form of heroes, the complete opposite of it, the people, being at their best rather than us being interested in people being at their worst.
Yeah, or just reclaiming the idea that it is exciting and interesting and wonderful to watch a film where somebody is trying to do the right things for the right reasons. And that is just as valid or even more valid than a story where somebody is out for revenge and trying to burn the world down. Like we don't have to like we can you can watch the anti-hero movies, that's fine, but also like we don't have to become a society that puts one of those way above the other. Like those things can both exist in the world. And in
Yeah, because
fact, I think
we saw the others as kids movies. When something is so pure and sincere, it's a kids movie. Not for me. You have to have the hardcore rated R. I need my superheroes to have swear words and fucking bloodiness, for it to seem like it's for me. Why?
it isn't.
It's
Paddington 2
me.
is a really weird kind of like pushback on this entire trend that you see of movies need to get darker, movies need to get harder, movies need to get more violent. This is like the horror movies all becoming the going from scares, and yeah, there's violence in them, but then they get really dark and violent and bloody in the 2000s and the 2010s. And then like action movies go from like
Yeah,
you can have fun buddy cop action movies to like every movie has to be the raid. And then you can go from like superheroes can be, goofy looking X-Men guys to like, oh, now every movie has to be hardcore and murder and
yeah,
like they like we really pushed the envelope on all of our media being like really hardcore. And I think Paddington 2 is like a really good pushback and being like, hey, look, other things exist in the world. Like you can do a really great movie that's just about empathy and love and wanting to make everyone's life better, and that can be totally valid in a world that is seemingly obsessed with everything needs to
yeah.
be more hardcore.
Not just hardcore, but I think there's an urge to want our characters to be more like us, that are more gray. We need our superheroes to have flaws like we do, rather than sometimes looking to have the opposite when it's we should be more like them. Like, what can we do to be like the heroes that we look up to? It's like you have to have that role model for us to aspire to, rather than bring them down to us because you can never amount
Well, it's like the idea that like, wow, we can't have Christopher Reeve Superman anymore. Like the idea of like Superman actually
to it.
being the best of
I can never
us.
be like Superman, so let's make Superman, yeah.
Right. It's just so weird because like the concept of Superman, like the Superman concept is a thing in political science. Like the idea that we want um and interesting enough, the same time that we lost this interest in Superman being the best of as a person is kind of a time that if you look at politics, we kind of lost the Superman concept from our politics of wanting our politicians to be the people who pushed our best urges rather than indulged our worst urges. There's a lot of Paddington 2 can really play into the discussion of so many things that are completely unrelated to the film, but also totally connected to what the film means and the time it came out.
Yeah.
Do
I
you have final
agree.
thoughts on if you good? You agree?
I agree. It's weird, like how melancholic I get about this movie that's so lovely, because I'm just starting to be sad about the lack of it. But it really should be just Paddington's teach us I should fear that there is people like Paul King and the writers that I think do have sincere optimism and what humankind can be. So as I learned from Paddington, I got to turn off the negative part of my mind that is worrisome about the
Absolutely.
worst parts of human, and turn off the positive and just take it in a personal sense. What can I do to be better? I'm not going to worry about what the rest of society and culture is. I'm responsible for myself. How can I be more like Paddington, and hope that people can follow? And tomorrow I'll do my best to live like Paddington. After that, I'll probably forget, but I'll still do my best.
But it is really like the Paddington idea is not the idea of if I'm nice to people, if I'm kind. What is the Aunt Lucy line? If you're kind and nice, the world will be right. The idea is not based on the idea that if Paddington is nice, then suddenly all the problems of the world will end.
No.
The idea is that if I am nice and polite and kind to other people around me, then maybe that will have a small impact on their days, and they will have a small impact on others. and it's not the huge colossal changes that everyone wants to see. Oh, let's fix society in 30 seconds. Like, no, that's not how it works. What works is if you do one nice thing, and then that person feels better about themselves because you did the nice thing, and then then somebody
I
else
want
is
to
the
do
nice
nice
thing.
things for you, and I want to bring your aunt from Peru for you.
That is the real message of the story. If you're nice to people, they will try to bring your aunt from the jungles of Peru.
Yes, I didn't express enough when we were talking about, but I just how remarkable it is that a scene of two animated bears hugging can be so emotionally effective is amazing. That you can like feel the warmth of that hug, and that hug does not exist in any reality.
Well, I mean, this is actually something that I'm glad you mentioned because I almost forgot to talk about, which is that, oh my God, the CGI in this movie is amazing. Paddington looks so real all the time. He fits into all the environments. He looks like there's a real bear there. And he's like, yeah, of course they're walking around with a bear. Of course they're like talking to a bear. Like, I don't know. I don't think this movie was like crazy high budget. It's always interesting when you see this sometimes where like movies that are not super high budget will have like really amazing visual effects because they're just, in some ways, I think that having less money actually makes your visual effects better because it forces you to think about how you use them, and you can't just do an entire scene of CGI effects. Like they have to be specific and targeted and have to think about it. But my God, they do such a good job. Even when it's like the first scene and it's, you know, Lucy and Pastuzo saving Paddington to the final scene, like it's just, it makes you truly, it takes you into the movie. It brings you into the childlike wonder of actually thinking there's a bear on screen with his family or hanging out with his prison friends, or like, it's just, there's something wonderful about the way they do it that really does let you break. um as an adult, you watch these kids movies, you're like, oh, there's a CGI character again. Like it really lets you break down the barrier of like what's in front of you, and you really get sucked into a story where like a bear is walking around with his family trying to just be nice to everyone and buy a pop-up book for his aunt.
Yeah, I want this
Paddington
pop-up
2.
book.
It does
Paddington
look
2.
amazing. It looks amazing.
Next birthday month, do we do a commentary for Paddington 2?
Yes. And Paddington 1. We'll do both.
Do both. It's short. It's still less than Justice League.
It's still like than Justice League. That's true. This movie's such a joy. It really is. Like, I feel like we've talked about it, and I simultaneously cannot say enough.
Yeah,
It's
and like
just so
we can
good.
turn this on as soon as we're done. We both just watched it in the past 24 hours.
It is legitimately one of those movies that you can finish, walk away for 30
Yeah,
seconds, and like, you know what? I want to watch a scene from Paddington again. It's just like it
yeah,
has that ability to like draw you back in, like the second you walk away from it, which is, you know,
yeah.
really impressive and not something you see with a lot of films.
And it's a handful of movies I have reserved for me to be able to experience it with my son first when he's really able to understand the movie. Right now, we watch stuff, but he doesn't like. He watched half of this with me, but he doesn't fully know what's going on. He'll know if there's a bird on screen and if people clap, and that's like the most awareness that he has.
Yeah.
Um, but my mom loves to watch movies with him as well. So I just like you can't watch Paddington 2. Right? Like I need to have this as a shared experience. Winnie the Pooh is one of those for me. The ones I really want to help carve his philosophy on what it means to grow up and be part of life.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that because this is like such a special film. I feel like
Yeah.
everyone who watches this and loves it, like it becomes special to that individual because that's just the way Paddington is. Like he's just special to everyone who's experienced this. It's just joy. David Orlick, the film critic for IndieWire, coined the term "nice core cinema." Um, he wrote an article about it after this came out that I remember reading. We talked about. He's just like, it's just wonderful to see stuff that's just about
Yeah.
being nice. Like that seems like such a simple topic for a film to tackle, but also something that is so lacking from most film. Just like the idea that like, look, this guy just wants to be nice to everyone, like, but not in like a goofy, like he's an idiot way, just like a genuine, wonderful, like he just wants to be nice to others because that's the way he believes that you should act towards the rest of the world.
And it was done in a way where it seems like everyone who's part of it, every actor, the director, the filmmakers, all fully believe in it. Like they believe in this philosophy and all it. I do want to say it's like a specialty of ours because this could be the third movie now that we have done that can qualify under nice core with Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, with I think It's a Wonderful Life, um, for sure. So we got to keep up this theme every now and then. We got to throw a nice core movie.
Absolutely. Do you have any final thoughts on the film, Zach?
No, I love it. I love life. Be kind to each other.
Just quoted, Train Spotting there. Slightly different film, not exactly nice cinema. Also great.
It's not intentional. I have no idea what the quote is you're talking about.
Live Life is a quote from the famous
Okay.
monologue by Ewan
I
McGregor from
love
Trainspotting.
life.
Oh, I'm bad. I'm bad at hearing.
You're not bad.
Yeah,
I'm a mumbler.
this film is wonderful. It's an absolute joy. Everyone should watch it. You should watch it if you're a little kid. You should watch it if you're a grandparent. You should watch it if you are
Our
100
bear.
years old. If you literally exist on the earth, I think you would enjoy Paddington 2. And the great thing about Paddington 2 is you can watch Paddington 1. It's also pretty good. It's really good. It's just not as good as this one. But you can also just watch Paddington 2 because it's a joy. And you don't really like the films are sort of connected, but not super connected, which is kind of the joy of cinema. And you're like, yeah, they really didn't design these movies to have a sequel. They didn't have like the hook in the way that you typically do. Zach is like, I don't know what you're looking at now.
I'm looking at the Daddy Cool lyrics again, getting ready.
Okay. Thank you, folks, for listening to our discussion of Paddington 2. This ends um, our month on Lucas and Zach movies. Zach and I just both had birthdays within the last 4 days. So, yeah.
Yay, happy birthday
Happy
to
birthday to us.
us.
We are
That should be what I
so
sing at the
old.
end. That's my
We're
bed up.
so old. Paddington will be nice to us and bring us a wheelchair. Because we're going to need it soon because we're just basically dying. We will be coming back. This is the end of this month. We will have some Oscars content coming up somewhere in here. So get ready for that. And then in May, we're coming back and we're doing an entire month on the legendary Golden Age actress Barbara Stanwyck that we are both
Yeah.
weirdly super excited to do.
These are some of my favorite movies.
Yeah, so we're going to do that. We're going to have some Oscars
I
content.
do want to just encourage everyone who may not be up for the classic films as much. This isn't in Barbara Stanwyck seems like we're doing it out of nowhere actors like we're not doing Catherine Hepburn or someone, but these are really not just eyes, but some of the best movies ever. Like the list that we have on stream are, objectively well appreciated great movies. So I hope everyone gives it the time of day and doesn't, just rub it off as something that I could be interested in. I think it's going to be
Absolutely.
very interesting conversations to get.
She's super charming. She's really fun to watch on screen. She's really engaging. I think everyone will enjoy it. We also sometime in May will have a Q&A for our 50th episode. So if you have questions, our email and our Twitter are in the description. You can send us questions. We were looking to curate them for that episode so we can answer the questions. We would prefer nothing like super shallow film stuff, like asking what our favorite Star Wars is really
Yeah.
not very interesting. If you have a
Open-ended
question,
questions.
open-ended, deeper questions, more interesting stuff. Ask us a question that's not about movies. Just anything that we think is interesting that we'll want to answer. So yeah, hit us up with that. With that being said, thank you, Zach. I'm Lucas. We will see you sometime in the future. Enjoy. Have a good night.
Happy birthday to Lucas. Happy birthday to Zach. Happy birthday, Daddy Cool. Happy birthday to us.